Hi everyone, I'm sorry about those technical difficulties on that last video. I've had videos get messed up before, and when it goes wrong, I kind of get scared, so I'm sorry to have stopped it. So right back to where we were, we're going to play this video just in the background because as I've shared with many of you, I'm sorry if this is, repetitive for some of you, but when I started questioning what I was seeing in the headlines about this case, I would, have those thoughts before bed. And so hubby's sleeping next to me because he's got to go to work in the morning. And here I am, till the wee hours of the morning going, this doesn't make sense. I'm looking literally at this People magazine, and what I'm seeing there doesn't make sense. And so I would watch those videos without the volume on my phone, and I'm going, okay, so this is what was going on there. And then I'd listen the next day with the volume, and what was being said was completely different than what was being shown on the videos. And I started going, what? That's not what was going on there. No, Cece was doing this. What? No. That was my first clue. And I think that will go a long way with others too. If you look at these videos and you don't listen to what she says is going on, watch what's truly going on with those girls and Chris and their body language, you'll start to see it. This video in particular, she's at one of those many vacations free that she didn't actually get for free. We've explained that before. Actually with Chris's money, but he had no idea. He thought that his money was being used to pay the mortgage. She was actually buying enough Thrive product to rank her own, so she would get these vacations. She didn't earn them. She bought them with his money, and he had no idea. He just knew he was going to work every day. So, because she said it, he believed it. And that's the problem. And like I say, maybe to this day, he doesn't even know. So now I'm seeing that there's just something going on with that video itself, but my audio is fine. So maybe that's when I switched it back out. If a man, let's switch this out. If a man was sending videos home to his wife, and there was a lady sitting next to him that he was always traveling with, leaving you behind with the kids in a schedule that he commanded, and he is telling you, oh, hi, love you, blah, 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 but he's with this other woman all the time. Would anybody believe that for a second? No, but because she was a woman, they're reluctant to believe that she could be as abusive as she was, that she could be as conniving as she was, or pathological. Now look at how she was working at the Dirty South. That is customarily a man's job. She had a masculine side to her that she wanted out. She wanted to be the one in charge. She didn't want to be sitting at home having those babies, which is fine. Don't have kids. It's not for everybody. I think she found that out right away, that it doesn't work for her. And maybe that's why it worked for her being a nanny, because she could take care of the kids for the 8 hours and then be gone for the others. She was not into parenting or being around kids for that full 24-hour adventure. She was in it for 8 hours and getting paid, all right. And part of that being naps. So the part that I want to introduce is an important psychological concept. It's not as fun, not as entertaining, but important. If you want to follow along or go into this same way of understanding abuse, Patricia Evans is one of the best authors that I have found on the subject. Patricia Evans wrote The Verbally Abusive Relationship, which is really good because it really gets into the kind of control and controlling behaviors that go on in an abusive relationship. People think that to be abused, you must be being hit, you must have bruises, and until and if that happens, you're not being abused. Well, nothing could be further from the truth. Bruises heal. Mental abuse doesn't. It takes a lot of therapy to try to manage the damage that's been done to your soul, but even so, your soul will bear those scars, and those scars will sometimes get a little thinner and hurt sometimes, and once you've been abused right down to the core of your soul, you see it and you understand it. Not everybody has been abused, and that's a good thing. But when people can't understand that, good. You don't want them to. You really don't. But the fact they keep coming back to this and trying to say this, are they being abused in their lives? And they come here to try and see and try and convince others that the same thing that Shanann is doing is happening to them. And so they're convincing others because they are also under mind control and they are also controlled. Like I say, I don't even think that Christopher Watts understands to this day what was truly going on. No one's going to tell him. Who would ever go against Shanann? His parents don't even understand it. They understand that something was happening, but I don't think that anybody grasps it until it has taken this many years and this many of us taking apart what we have. And the fact that we do have these videos and we do have these pictures and we do have all of this information is something that's very rare. She was ahead of her time in being a social media content creator. Trying to be a breadwinner, but she was not making any money at Thrive. That's been proven so many times, so many ways. You don't have to claim bankruptcy twice if you're actually successful at this MLM, remember? But yeah, we're not supposed to talk about that now, are we? Well, here's her, the wonderful Thrive thing. Her being the center of attention literally in that picture. Literally. And then, what do we have here? Sorry. I'm trying to get it to a good spot. You all know that most of my videos are listening, so because I'm no good at this at all, as you can tell. Oh, Lord, what did I just do there? Maybe I need to go back. Maybe I'll just keep it there. Get to the point, damn it's a Jane. Okay, so we'll just go to the listening part. Okay, so I would recommend reading the books Controlling People and The Verbally Abusive Relationship by Patricia Evans. It's Patricia Evans. And under the Fair Use Act and Disclaimer, in Section 107 of the Copyright Act of 1976, allowance must be made for the fair use and the fair use factor and balancing act test, that a small portion of the original material will be used, and that new work is critique, satire, or education, that the commercial value of the original is not diminished, and that new work is predominantly original product of user. So with that being said, I'm going to fair use the information in the Controlling People book by Patricia Evans for education. And I really cannot urge you enough to read this book. An important concept in this book is in chapter 12. I have read parts of this book before, and it's tough and it's complex, and so it's not gotten a lot of good feedback for me in this, because you really need to read it from the beginning and understand. But what I want to do is I want to take you through this chapter 12. Listen to it, because it's a foundational aspect that's going to be able to explain a lot more. Right away, in chapter 12 here, in this book, Controlling People, how to recognize, understand, and deal with people who try to control you. Now, Shanann was all about control. We know that. And this chapter is called The Teddy Illusion. And it'll make sense later. But the most poignant fact, and I think I'm going to name this episode this. Well, there's nothing more true than what I'm going to say here. This is a quote by Patricia Evans, and it says, "We may not know that it's there until we see its impact." Nothing is more true than the case of Christopher and Shanann Watts. That indeed we may not know that it's there until we see its impact. Just as I was talking in the previous episode about how an earthquake happens because the tectonic plates underneath us are moving. That those tectonic plates aren't bothering anybody, unless they get a little wild. But when too much goes, then an earthquake happens. An earthquake doesn't just happen. It happens because the plates underneath are slowly moving. And that's what it is. We may not know that it's there until we see its impact. We may not know that those tectonic plates are moving until we see that earthquake. We may not have paid any attention to it. And that's the same as the Watts. All of the lies, the financial abuse, the emotional abuse, the abuse of the children, the neglect, the stress, the lies, the alternate reality, the being put down, being gaslighted. Christopher Watts may not have known it was actually there until he saw the impact. And the question is what was that impact? Was it seeing that ultrasound and seeing the different dates and him adding up that, yeah, that's when she was with Christopher Miller in that leopard dress? Because she was lying about the dates of the pregnancy. And she made damn sure that she had her friend N.A., Nicole Atkinson, the one who's in all of this, interwoven, although she didn't like Shanann to begin with. Why didn't she like Shanann? She was there because Shanann's mother asked her to be there. Why would a mother ask somebody else to be there to watch over Shanann if there was no problems with Shanann? Why was her own mother living in that house with her father if there was not a problem with Shanann? So why are that mother and father right now not coming forward and saying she was absolutely disordered? She was doing a lot of things that they didn't approve of, that had an effect on Christopher and had a terrible effect on those girls. And because of those girls, they moved in and they tried to do what they could to stop some of the extreme control and abuse that were going on and make the girls' lives a little better. But they didn't dare upset Shanann because nobody did. Nobody went against her. If she said those girls slept 15 hours a day and she takes them to an overpriced daycare, that they're supposed to be having activities and everything with the other kids, and she wants to make sure they keep their naps, she's going to make sure that you send her a damn picture every day with the kids alone and isolated in a room by themselves. That breaks my heart every time I see that picture. Who does that? She did it. And again, we may not know that it's there until we see its impact. The impact is whatever happened that night. However it happened because there was this ongoing pattern of lies, deceit, and abuse. That home was going into foreclosure. They were getting a divorce. She was likely pregnant with another man's child, and there's a possibility that Cece was not even his child. What if everything came rushing in? And everything was so much, and if he is on the spectrum, that speaks to him not being able to process all of the deceit, lies, stress. Maybe he did just absolutely freak out and take the lives of everybody that was in his sight. Have you ever been that mad? I have. I didn't take it out on anybody else, but I've been that mad. When you find out that you've been lied to, deceived, made a fool of, look at how he must have felt. He must have felt like all of her little Thrive friends were laughing at him. His family was trying to tell him something was wrong, but they couldn't describe it. No one could put into words what she was doing because she was a master illusionist at this. She was a bully. She was her own children's first bully, and she was his bully. She was a bully because she bullied because she wanted control. Now she's out there living her dirty South lifestyle and doing whatever. Who cares? Who cares? She's a beautiful woman wanting to do what she wants to do, wanting to have that masculine power and have that dirty South lifestyle. So what? Let her do it. Doesn't matter to me. Doesn't matter to anybody. But when it affects the lives of two beautiful little children and one inside that she was putting the Thrive stuff on her because whatever was in that apparently made her operate a little better. She was affecting the fetus inside her and trying to tell other people that it was safe. She hadn't been to a doctor yet. She had not received any type of prenatal care because she did not want the due date to be written down for that baby to show when it was conceived, because it was not conceived when she was still having relations with Chris Watts. He knew it. The Oops, I Did It Again video says it all. She had him videoed because she knew damn well if she was just in a little room by herself and said, hey, I'm pregnant again, he's going to say, what? I haven't touched you. Is this the Immaculate Conception? Is this Jesus Christ himself coming back through you? Are you Mary? Well, the Shiners would say yes. She had him videotaped. And he didn't know if it was live on the other end. We don't know if it was live on the other end. I don't know if it was a live video. Probably was, so that it'd be on tape if he was like, what the? But he wouldn't do that on tape now, would he? It was just like, because he's like, really? He's like going, is it mine? He's like saying all this stuff in his head because they were separated. They were going to sell the house. He lived downstairs. He lived downstairs in the basement. Maybe it was just all so much, and he had not slept in how long, was delusional, how could you keep anything straight when she's telling you this and that? But this and that isn't true. But this and that is true because she says it's so. But fundamentally, is it true or not? If a tree falls in the woods, does it make noise? If nobody is there to hear it, how would you know? All of these things. Bottom line, we may not know that it's there until we see its impact. Perfectly stated. Another concept that Patricia Evans says is that in a pretend world, pretending makes it so. So if we put that in there, if we say in Shanann's world, Shanann makes it so. Because she's pretending that this is that way so that ultimately at the end of the day, she gets what she wants so she can live the lifestyle that she wants so that nobody inconveniences her. She has her way that she wants to look. She has her hours that she wants to put into getting that look. And she's not going to let anybody stand in the way of that. That's her. The girls suffered every single day they didn't have any illnesses, but because she said they did, then they did. But they didn't. So people will say, no, their health records were confidential, so you don't know. No, that's not the way it works in an autopsy, and the autopsy's all public. And those girls did not have anything called familial Mediterranean fever. They didn't have FMF, but she said they did have FMF. But they didn't have it. But she said she had lupus, but she didn't have lupus. But she said she did. So if you go to the autopsy reports, with the astounding amount of information saying that it isn't so as it is. And then you have the confirming things. Because an autopsy, when you go through a medical examination and a medical examiner, especially something that was going to be, we didn't know that Chris was going to take the worst plea in the world until he took the worst plea in the world. So some had to still figure that this was going to go to trial. And when you have a medical examiner is going to conduct a investigation because they have to be able to say that the reason why this person is no longer alive is because of this event. If indeed this person had these underlying things and that caused the event to make that person not be alive, that is what the medical examiner is there to find out. That is why if you die from a gunshot wound to the femur and you have an autopsy, they weigh your brain and your heart. Well, the bullet didn't go in your brain and your heart, but still is to make sure that there's nothing else. There was no other disease process in your body so that it can show that this criminal fired this gun that put this bullet in that caused this amount of blood loss that caused this and that there was no other underlying factor, that this person wasn't walking there and then they had an aneurysm right before they were shot, because that would be something to consider in a trial. So when you look at the medical examination and you look at the autopsy, and yes, I've narrated them all, they're all here on my Watts playlist, you see that the girls were healthy and she was healthy. that a disease such as lupus would certainly be mentioned because that would be very significant, that familial Mediterranean fever would have been listed for both of the girls. Not that it would have caused what we know by the deduction of reasoning happened that night, but could it have been contributing to this or that? That would be noted, and there would be all of these steps in what was going on in that person, in their body, that led up to this. Those things are not there. This is science. You cannot argue that. I realize that right now shiners are saying that autopsies are not science at me. I cannot reason with the unreasonable. They are, again, listening to a channel right now who is making money for fools, so the fools make money. And the most foolish of all makes all of the money, so the fool has the most money. So the people who are saying, oh, sweet Shanann, she just didn't know. And God, you just got to give it to her. You know, she had that lupus and she was just doing the best she could every day. Look at her. Fuck that. Look at her. Look at these videos. Look at this. This happened, which caused the death of these two beautiful little girls who were being abused every day of their life. And they were being abused because their mother made it so. They were not allowed to have fun and laugh. The trampoline video where Bella wasn't able to jump around like Cece because Shanann was trying to say that Bella's foot didn't work right and she was going to need special shoes and her ankle didn't work right. So she made her parents sit there and make sure that Bella didn't jump. But Bella was allowed to kind of like make little growling noises at Cece and be proud of that. Let her go on the freaking trampoline. But because Shanann said no, it's no. A child will jump and jump and jump until they can't. Their body will tell them that they can't. There was nothing wrong with Bella. There was nothing wrong with Bella. Cece may or may not have had an allergy. We don't even know at this point. But she loved taking pictures of the girls with the nebulizers and the girls asleep. And want to know why? Because when she wanted to be done with those girls, she wanted to put them up on a shelf like teddy bear. And this is where we're going to go. The teddy bear illusion, again, we may not know that it's there until we see its impact, because in couple relationships, people who attempt to control their mate have created a pretend person whom they think is their mate. They relate to the pretend person that they mistake for their real mate. Let's take a look at how the pretender creates, sees, and interacts with the pretend person. If we understand what is going on when someone makes up the other in a personal relationship, we will not only be better able to protect ourselves from anyone's attempt to control us, but we will also be better to see what control is all about, even when it involves large groups. Now, large groups can absolutely be control. This is how we have cults. This is how we have one person who is charismatic, and Shanann was... apparently people say that she was a good salesperson. I've reviewed that. I don't see it. I think that she was good at telling people what she wanted them to hear. The following drama, The Teddy Illusion, shows just how someone might begin to make up a pretend person and what happens in relationships when they do. Teddy starts out as the pretend friend, an imaginary teddy bear, and later Teddy is the main character. An imaginary teddy bear provides the best example of how a pretender develops and anchors a pretend person in someone and shows how different a pretend person is from an authentic person. A teddy bear is an inanimate that is quiet and totally compliant. This is how the pretender seems to expect the authentic person to be. Beginning in childhood, the pretender unconsciously develops the pretend person like a child develops a pretend friend teddy bear. And like a child who plugs every move and thought into his teddy bear, making it do and say what he wants, the pretender, quite unconsciously, tries to do the same thing. Only the pretender is plugging the pretend person into an authentic person. Okay? I know right now you guys are probably having the same thoughts that I was when I was reading this, because my brain was going, oh my God, this is Chris. Oh my God, this is her first time. Oh my God. This is why there wasn't intimacy. This is why, no, they were just teddy bears. They were her inanimate object. Teddy, like a real teddy bear, doesn't leave. It is as comforting as one can imagine. Could be male or female, child or adult, or could even be split into a number of imaginary people. In the pretender's earliest childhood, Teddy, the pretend person, might begin as an imaginary, all-need-meeting parent and later be personified as a perfect mate. Chris Watts. In the following scenario, Teddy becomes a pretend person, an imaginary mate that the pretender anchors in a real person and sees instead of that person. The Teddy illusion. I invite you to relax and imagine, if you will, that when very young you had an imaginary teddy bear, and that you played with your imaginary teddy bear in the same way that children play with a real teddy bear. Like playing house with dolls, imagine playing the roles of little Teddy and little Teddy's friend, just as a child plays. The child's voice is high and even more childlike when talking with Teddy. Hi, Teddy. Now you stay here. I'll be right back, okay? Okay, Teddy says in the same little voice. With this picture in mind, please visualize having your own imaginary teddy bear right with you, and imagine talking to Teddy and responding for Teddy with the same little voice. The more you're able to put yourself into the imaginary world of the child playing Let's Pretend, the more effective this scenario will be in revealing how some people establish an extension, almost like a tentacle reaches from one person to the other. You ready? Hey, you say to the imaginary teddy bear. I'll be back later. Okay, bye, says Teddy in the same little voice. I am back. Oh, hi. Here I am, says Teddy. You hug Teddy while you watch some cartoons on TV. The next day you say, bye, as you go out the door. Teddy says, bye. Days pass in much the same way. Sometimes you show Teddy things. Look what I made today. And Teddy says, oh, you're really smart. You have different things to tell Teddy. Teddy knows just what to say. Sometimes you just leave Teddy sitting around. But that's okay. Teddy's always there. Sometimes you grab Teddy and give a big hug. You're glad to have Teddy because no one else seems to care. Most of the time you tell Teddy, bye, when you leave, and Teddy never fails to say bye back. And Teddy always appreciates you. Teddy always thanks you for a taste of your candy and some of the good snacks you have. Teddy is so nice to have around. You dream of Teddy, and in some ways it seems almost like Teddy's alive. And time passes. Hi, Teddy, you say. Hi, says Teddy. Bye, you say as you leave. Bye, says Teddy. You dream of Teddy, and even more and more, Teddy becomes more and more real to you. Then one day your dream that Teddy is more than just a dream. Would you like some coffee? Asks Teddy. Teddy moves around now. But as you look back, it's hard to remember how it all came about. Anyway, this is great. You couldn't be happier. Teddy gets things done and agrees with you. Of course, and thinks of some things and does some things for you, even before you ask. So sometimes you give Teddy a list of things to do for you. You sure love Teddy. You come and go as usual. I'll be back later, you say. Okay, bye, says Teddy in a familiar little voice. Hi, I'm back. Hi, says Teddy. Time passes and life continues quite the same. Teddy comes and goes too, and gets money you can use, and is always home for you. Sometimes Teddy talks about stuff, but it doesn't have anything to do with you, so you just nod and listen. Sometimes you tell Teddy something about what you did at work, and Teddy says something like, "Oh, that's great. You're really smart." You know that Teddy wants what you want. And each morning, as usual, you say, "Bye, I'll be back later." And Teddy says, "Okay, bye." Each evening, as usual, you say, "Hi, I'm back." And Teddy says, "Hi." The days go on, much the same, and you feel okay. As time passes, once in a while, Teddy says something that sounds strangely different. So you don't even nod. It's just really noise. Nothing to do with you, you're thinking. Then one morning you say bye. And in a very normal voice, one you've never heard before, Teddy says, "When will you be back?" You're stunned. Your world is suddenly turned upside down. Nothing like this shattering experience has ever happened before. The Teddy you've always known is gone. Part of your mind wants to scream. Where did my Teddy go? Teddy's never acted like this. Teddy's so different. So suddenly separate, you almost feel annihilated. So alone. So shocked. It's as if Teddy's against you. What do you mean, when will I be back? You say, raging through clenched teeth, feeling attacked. Everything seems to be falling apart. All because of Teddy. How could Teddy do this? And anger rushes through you. Just what the hell are you questioning me for? All you do is question me, you say. Beside yourself, you're barely able to think. In the tiniest of voices, Teddy says, "I just wanted to know if there'd be a time for me to stay for a meeting and have some dinner with you. Or if you were getting home early." Suddenly you hear Teddy's little voice. It sounds familiar. "Well, why didn't you just say so, damn it?" But that's all I needed to know when you'd be home, says Teddy. "Would you just quit going on and on, always trying to be right?" you say as you go out the door. Busy all day, you head for home that evening, wanting nothing more than to relax and cuddle up with Teddy. You come in as usual. "Hi, Teddy." "Oh, hello," says Teddy in a different voice. "What the hell is wrong with you?" you say, tired and exasperated and scared, because Teddy sounds different. Not like Teddy at all. In a pained way, Teddy says, "Well, I feel kind of sad. Are you angry with me about something?" I don't know where you get these ideas. Who have you been talking to? "I just want to know what you're angry about," says Teddy. You feel an even greater rush of anger. "Nothing. I told you. Now will you just drop it? You never give up. I'm sick of your questions," you say. Teddy stays quiet. Everything's back to normal. Next day you say, "Bye, Teddy." And Teddy says, "Bye," in a little voice. You think everything's okay. "Hi, Teddy," you say as you come in that evening, and no voice greets you. You look around, and there's Teddy sitting in the bedroom. "What's the matter with you now?" you say. "Nothing's the matter with me. I've just been thinking," says Teddy. "I think there's a problem in our relationship, and I want you to go to a counselor with me about it." I know you guys are spinning because you guys are thinking of the first husband, aren't you? It's all starting to make sense, isn't it? Starting to make sense as to when at the end of the vacation, when she went on one final little vacation with Christopher Miller, and maybe he rejected her. Maybe her plan of going to the Carolinas were to never come back to Colorado. And when Christopher Miller rejected her, allegedly, in my opinion, maybe Christopher Watts was also Teddy. And she knew that she had to go back to her teddy bear, Christopher Watts. And Christopher Watts was done because he had started having an affair just like she was having an affair. He knew that they were going to get divorced. He was sleeping downstairs. They were selling the house. So when he's not saying the things right, she's telling all of her friends he's not behaving right. Because teddy bear changed. First husband did this. Second husband did this. They both had enough of being treated like the teddy bear. Think about it. Especially the first husband, as we know. He tried to get her to go to marital counseling and she wouldn't. She instead responded by not coming home at night. So here we are. Here we are with the Teddy scenario, still explaining this so that everybody understands. I'll go back. "Nothing's the matter with me. I've just been thinking," says Teddy. "I think there's a problem in our relationship and I want to go to a counselor. I want you to go to a counselor with me about it." "What the hell should I see a counselor for?" you say with disgust. Then angrily you say, "You're the one who's been acting strange. You've got a major psychological problem." "I don't," says Teddy, sounding angry. "Well, go see a counselor by yourself. You're the one who needs it. Look at how you've been acting lately," you say as you walk out the room. A few days later, Teddy goes off to see a counselor, just like her first husband did. You arrive home saying, "Hi," as you come in. "I want to ask you something," says Teddy. "Well, what now? Just say it." "The counselor says to ask you to come in with me," says Teddy, looking very still and staring straight ahead. First husband. "What counselor?" "The one I called because I was feeling so sad, and I'm feeling really mad too. This whole thing is so confusing," says Teddy. "Why should I?" "Because the counselor wants you to," says Teddy. "Well, if it'll straighten you out, then I guess I'll go. I guess I haven't any choice. When do we have to go?" Teddy tells you, and on the day of the appointment, you leave together. You're hoping Teddy will settle down if you just go once. You can't seem to make Teddy happy, no matter how hard you try. You never even complain when Teddy doesn't get everything on the list done. And this is what you get for all your trouble. Just when the relationship is going great, Teddy has to start something. Does the list sound familiar, you guys? Christopher Watts and the list that was given to everybody from her. The list. Remember? She gave the babysitter a list. She gave everybody a list of what had to be done as she came and went. You understanding now? Just when the relationship is going great, Teddy has to start something. At the appointment, you tell the counselor how Teddy's been acting hostile lately, questioning you, seeming to have changed radically in the last year. Is this sounding more and more like how she was describing Watts when she couldn't force him to forgive her and agree to get back together when she moved back? Get it? The counselor asks Teddy to try to understand how upset you've been and asks Teddy to try to be more accepting, to show more affection, and to stop questioning you and to be assertive. The counselor asks you to be patient with Teddy and recommends a doctor who can give Teddy some antidepressants because Teddy seems especially sad. Maybe it's a winter depression and Teddy needs more sunlight, she says. If that doesn't help, she knows a doctor who can tell if Teddy needs some hormones. Thrive. Double dose, thrive. You're relieved that there's someone to help get Teddy back to normal. Remember when the regular Thrive wasn't working, so she started the duo patch, stuck one on each side of him, and then filmed as he did more and more push-ups for her so that he could be more and more effective and get more and more things done on the list each day? All he had to do was give up things like him sleeping. He didn't get to sleep like everybody else. He had to be up performing for her because he had to please her as she came and went. Life goes on the same for the next couple of weeks. "Hi, Teddy," you say as you arrive home one day. There's no answer. You look around and you find Teddy in the bedroom packing a suitcase. "What the hell are you doing?" In a very tiny voice, Teddy says, "I'm leaving. Nothing has worked and I have to go." "You're not going anywhere. Not after all I've done for you." Suddenly, Teddy snaps the suitcase shut, grabs it, and runs to the door. You chase Teddy. Furious, suddenly you grab Teddy, and all the while shouting as you push Teddy to the floor. "I've had it with you. You're crazy. Even a therapist couldn't help you. You try that again and I'll have you committed," you say. You feel like jumping and pounding on Teddy, but you don't. Secretly, you hear a little voice inside saying, "I'm not going to play with you anymore. I'm going to find a nice new Teddy." Teddy sits quietly in a corner. Remember when Shanann bragged about kicking Chris's ass all the way outside and locking him outside on the porch? Starting to make sense, isn't it? Maybe Teddy got the message, you think. Everything seems normal, as good as it did years ago. Teddy stopped acting up. Next day. "Bye, Teddy," you say as you're heading off on one of your pretend Thrive vacations. "Bye," says Teddy very quickly. As you head for home that evening, you wonder why Teddy isn't fun anymore. You arrive home. Teddy's gone too. For some reason, you feel a part of you is gone too. What do you think about Teddy? What if we go back and say that night, when the unthinkable came to a head, when the earthquake happened from all that had been building up underneath, what if we go back to this scenario here? When, let's say that Christopher Watts was saying that he was going to leave her. She walked in that house after being all pissed off because she was all riled up. Her friends were saying, "Yeah, Chris isn't acting right. What is going on? I bet you he is seeing another woman." And she knew that there was that charge on that credit card. And so she was going to, maybe he was saying he was going to leave. And maybe she walked in firing mad. Her blood alcohol level was way too high for one pregnant person. Way too high. A pregnant person should not be consuming alcohol at all. Why was her blood alcohol level high? She was not in the state that she was decomposing for very long. Not long enough for that to have caused that effect of decomp, because yes, decomp can cause a raise in alcohol. It has to go with the yeast and whatever else in the body's composition. That does not match the level of the blood alcohol concentration in Shanann on autopsy. So much so that they knew this was going to be a big question. So they had a press conference. Weld County got out there and had a press conference about Shanann Watts having a high blood alcohol level upon autopsy. And they got out there and said how, yeah, we noticed that. Basically saying, yeah, what about it? Have they ever in the history of anything in mankind went out and had a press conference about a murder victim having a high blood alcohol level? Nowhere, never. They knew that alone was going to cause questions of what happened in that house that night. Did she come in? Had she been drinking? Had she been mixing it with the oxycodone? If she had not seen a doctor in 2 years, how did she have that continual bottle of oxycodone that she never left the house without? How'd she have the oxycodone for Christopher to put in a smoothie and try and make her miscarry? How'd she have that oxycodone if she had not yet seen an obstetrician? Because if you're taking oxycodone and you're pregnant, your obstetrician needs to know, because that is absolutely affecting that fetus. So when people say she's a wonderful mother and everything, no. She was very likely an opioid addict. And that needs to be addressed. You don't take those kind of medications unless you are very, very closely monitored by your obstetrician and they determine that pain medication is absolutely a necessity, because without it, you can miscarry from the stress of the pain, etc., etc. It's something that a doctor has to figure very carefully before they're writing that prescription to a pregnant woman, giving her opioids. The fact that she had not seen a doctor at all for the pregnancy, nor any doctors in 2 years prior, does not make sense how she had that constant stream of oxycodone. So did she walk in that night and he told her he was going to leave her and she freaked out just as this Teddy scenario went? Just like when she knocked his ass all the way through the house and onto the porch and locked him out? Did she freak out so bad on him and what he said in his first confession happened? We don't know. We don't know because law enforcement didn't do their job. This is bigger than law enforcement, I'll agree. But bottom line is, something terrible happened. And again, we may not know that it's there until we see its impact. And the impact is that 2 beautiful little children lost their lives. And that a baby in utero did as well. So arguably 3 children lost their lives due to the 2 adults behaving badly. One caused the other to react, but which one caused which one to react? Would either have reacted had the other one not reacted and caused the other to react? You can't have one without the other. Now, this finishes up saying this story is familiar to many people. They think it's about them. My Teddy was happy for me. I thought it meant we were of one mind, my mind. It never occurred to me to ask my Teddy what was wrong, said a client. Another person, long separated from her husband, said that she'd recently heard from him. He said he couldn't understand why she had left him, and he wanted her to get back together with him. She told him she just couldn't do that. Then she went on to tell me that when she had told him her reasons, he told her that she should have known he wasn't going to kill her. Kill her? What was he talking about? When he had a knife to my throat, that's when he said I should have known he wasn't going to kill me. What? Again, they were of one mind. She says, he is a little saner now. He stopped stalking me. I only had to move across town to escape his persecution. Look at the people who have had to leave their country to escape it. It's no wonder that the former husband believed she knew what he had in mind. He'd made her up. They were so close, how could it be otherwise? just as if it were a human power, a psychic skill honed with exercise. Some people pretend that they can cross your psychic boundary, look around, step out, and tell you what they found there. The trouble with you is, despite the fact that they couldn't have gotten into you psychically, looked around, stepped out, and told you what was wrong with you. When people are defined by someone with whom they are trying to relate, they feel psychically raped. In relationships, we are vulnerable and open, and therefore such assaults are quite devastating. I believe that this speaks to Christopher Watts' state of mind. I believe that if he were to have found out, as he was shuffling through that pile of letters, as he had seen the ultrasound with a witness there, Shanann made sure she wasn't alone in that ultrasound. She made sure there was somebody there to help her in case Christopher dared to confront her. Who has a stranger in the room with them for the first time to see their baby on ultrasound? If it was indeed their baby. I never did. And I have 6 kids. And my youngest are twins. And with my 4th pregnancy, I had a kidney blockage. So honestly, you know how many ultrasounds I've had? Never would bring somebody else in. But the whole thing of having the gender reveal party made it so, that means that another person has to be there. There's always some other whole reasoning that goes into anything that she did. So this could cover for that, so that could cover with that. So that when she went in for an ultrasound, they didn't just say, all right, your estimated date of conception is, which makes this baby this much. Because if the estimated date of conception, which is what they do, the EDC, would have been said out loud with just Christopher Watts there, he knows when they weren't, and he said that. He said they were not having relations as of this, so that's why she was saying she was farther along than she was. And I went and I did everything with the autopsy and made a life-to-scale display of the fetal skeleton of Nico to show why they are saying that he only measured a certain number of weeks versus what she said, because she was trying to say she was further along than she was. I didn't go to where, okay, this could be because the fluid was already left or whatever. I did the skeletal measurement, rump to crown. I did all of this to show her lies. They're all there. All my research is there. I don't just say these things. Now it says this is very different from an intuitive or a sensitive person, where a person reads you by invitation. In your belief or disbelief in such a reading is your own business. If somebody says, they can see the way you feel or they can feel this in you, that's not what we're talking about. In everyday life, people who present reality backwards commonly mix up physical reality. For example, when someone says, "You made me," they are not only absolving themselves of all responsibility, but also acting if another party, you, were inside them and caused their behavior. As if you were within the natural order of things founded in the reality of physical existence. So another person can't say, I wouldn't have done this if you wouldn't have done this, because as humans, we all have free will. Another person cannot make you do this. Although no one can actually be within another person and make them do what they do or say what they say, some people can pretend that they can. And similarly, a person who bullies another person may claim in a backwards way, it takes two, as if the victim had bullied the perpetrator. And I hate that when people say that and they're like, it takes two to tango. Or, well, it takes two. What was, I hate that, and this speaks to that. And some people may even claim to be able to reverse the past and present, pretending that their words in the present will change the past. For example, when a person acts violently against others and then says that they don't mistreat anybody, they make up the past and they make up themselves. Now, in so doing that, in this case, we know Shanann's parents do this. and they act as if there had never been any issues with Shanann whatsoever. That they just don't know why this happened. They have no idea, and that, she was just this loving mother, and, she was so successful and just loved what she did and loved those girls and loved Chris, and they don't know why Chris did this, but they don't want Chris to have the death penalty, and they just want this all to go away, but they want all the money. Because they know damn well that if all of the questions are asked, it's going to be, what were you doing living with them? Why did you move into that house? It's because you knew that she couldn't do something right. And what was that? Was it parent right? Was it because you wanted to be between her and Chris because you knew that Chris was going to blow up when he found out about all of her lies? Did she brag and laugh about all of the lies that she was telling him? And the parents knew that, hey, this is going to end up crumbling, so let's try to help her get caught up with the house so that he doesn't know that the house is all behind. Let's get together and combine bills. And then she still went and spent anyway. What's the truth? What does NA really know? What do her parents really know? What should the Watts know? And what should Christopher Watts himself know as to what was really going on? It is stated that it is believed by some that there was active CPS reports going on, and some believe that Shanann was not allowed to be alone with her children. That was a theory that was going on in the beginning, and I do believe that Sherilyn went and asked Christopher Watts when she was asking him questions about that, and if that were true, and he said, no, nothing like that, which we don't know, because I don't think Christopher Watts knows what was really going on. I don't speak to that theory because I have not found anything concrete that I can use to show that that was indeed going on. I don't have anything where I can say this means this or that means that. A lot of that was surrounding the upcoming court hearing that was going to happen the week that Shanann was supposed to return, and that was actually about the HOA payment not being made. That was because she was not making the mortgage payment, she was not making the HOA payment. She was lying, saying that she was sending it to a different address, blah, blah, blah. She was lying to Chris about that. So that was going to be very problematic as to how that was going to go. Now, when asked about what that court date was about, Shanann's mother said it was regarding an ongoing family matter. That is, in my opinion, what gave rise to the theory that that was a family court thing. If Sandra would have just said Shanann wasn't paying the HOA, or Shanann was sending it to the wrong address, whatever, about the HOA, I don't believe that the speculation would have been there. Do we know if that was going on? I don't know. I just don't have enough information where I can speak to it and say this. I get enough harassment when I can show actual things from the discovery, because then people will say the discovery isn't accurate, which there are mistakes in the discovery, but when every single thing that you show then comes back, when they say prove it and you go to prove it and they say, well, that doesn't mean anything, autopsies don't mean anything, autopsies aren't science, then it goes there and there. So I don't go with the ongoing CPS thing because it's too much of a I don't have a leg to stand on it, and it would be very easy for them to then discredit everything that I've proven if I do that. I wouldn't be surprised if there was something like that going on. Now, we know that CPS does do investigations before they take action. I have never heard of CPS having an instance where they knew that somebody was dangerous and then still allowed that person to be alone with them for a certain amount of hours. So I can go either way on it. Those that don't have a channel and aren't facing constant persecution, they can honestly think that because it makes sense, but I just can't. So if you say that in the comments and everything, I don't disagree. There could be that. I just can't personally say it. And those are the reasons why. Nothing would surprise me, actually. And in the last closing in this, it says that, and this is the biggest statement, I think, because it says, in the same way that a person makes up a pretend person, he or she may also make up a pretend world. And in a pretend world, saying it is so makes it so. And that is the biggest point here about the Watts case, is that because people say it happened this way, then, oh, it must have happened this way. And when we talk about the forensic psychology and breaking down what may have led to the unthinkable, we have to start looking at these factors and say, what happened? And is it going to change the outlook? That's where we get shiners coming in saying, so what? He did it. He's in prison. Let it be. Okay. But if we don't have our investigators doing investigations, then any one of us can face persecution, as can our loved ones. We have to demand more, and we have to hold our elected, appointed, and hired leaders accountable when they make mistakes like this, because this is the same group of law enforcement that botched the case of JonBenét. When I recently heard that there were, 8 different DNA samples on JonBenét's body that they have not been able to rule out because they didn't have the technology, and now they're saying they don't have the money to run each test. They are saying that it is within the possibility, a very great possibility, that they could solve the case of JonBenét, but right now they don't have the money to run each test. Really? That's what it's coming down to now? That's what they're saying? No. And the other problem is that we think that because we watch so many crime stories, and they wrap up a case in an hour, that there is that part of our brain that says, why didn't they do this? Why didn't they do that? Well, because the technology doesn't exist to do so. But there is more that they should have done and still could do to understand what happened in the Watts case. It is a teaching tool and how covert abuse looks. For Bella and Cece, they deserved more than to be controlled in the way that they were by their mother, their bully. It's important to identify that, yes, bullies can be beautiful. Nobody's doubting that she wasn't beautiful. Maybe charismatic. I don't know. But so many people, when they say, oh, she loved her girls and she was the best mother, she was right there. Why? Because she was controlling every aspect of them? And a mother that sits back and lets their children love, laugh, learn, climb, play is a lesser mother? Is that how we're determining good mothers now? Look at what is said and what is not said. And look at the pretend world that she created. And just because she said it and she was pretending does not make it so. And that is where Christopher Watts could have a trial under 35C in Colorado the second he decides to do so. Will it change his outlook or his sentence? No, most likely not. But what does he have to lose? Letting people know the whole story of what was really going on in that house so that maybe it will save other Cece and Bellas? That's why he should do the trial. That's why. And he needs to know that there are people who understand and have been controlled, criticized, and abused in the same way that he has been. Does that excuse his behavior if he did it? Does that make him innocent? No. But is he a stupid monster? No. Again, the result happened, so now we have to see what caused that to happen. It doesn't matter. And maybe he liked being a cuck. Who knows? But the truth matters. And as soon as we become a society that thinks that the truth doesn't matter, well, we're pretty much done as a society. And we may be there. We may be there. But I believe that we're not. So join up to that Reddit Watts Free for All. It's got a lot of good people in there talking. A lot of shiners, but we deal with them. And thank you so much for listening. If you guys haven't noticed, I am 2 subscribers away from hitting 3,000. Thank you so much. I never thought I'd get there. And who's going to be my 3,000th? Do you want to be my 3,000th? And like, share, and if you feel inclined to do so, my Cash App is Tabitha Jane 13. If you want to buy me coffee, I wouldn't complain. Since I am now non-monetized. So thank you for listening, and I will talk to you again soon.